Was Lucifer's plan to force us to be good, or was it to erase the consequences of our actions? There is serious contention about which of these is true. But why couldn't it be both? For a long time, many members of the church supposed that Lucifer's plan was simply to force people to be good. This framing of the adversary's plan has since been questioned. For example, there is a competing theory that consequence-free action is the underlying promise of Lucifer's plan. I quote, "Rarely is Satan found forcing people to be righteous." Is it that rare, though? Forcing people to be good turns out to be the underlying premise of a police state. In particular, if other people aren't too well behaved, according to one's own value system, a police state can either force them to conform or exterminate them. Embedded in this worldview, though, is a rather prideful presumption that oneself is guiltless of any wrongdoing, and since might makes right, the value systems that are enforced by police states invariably devolve into relativism. As for the alternative, erasing the consequences of sin, it is indeed easy to find examples of this. The free love movement of the 60s is a commonly used example. In general, any value system that promotes disconnect between choices and their consequences qualifies. These two value systems actually show up in familiar places in the modern world. Generally speaking, liberalism is a value system that rejects accountability for one's own choices. It claims to be generous, but in the end it can leave justice unsatisfied. It emphasizes mercy at the expense of justice. On the other hand, fascism is a value system that rejects freedom to choose. It emphasizes justice at the expense of mercy. What both of these value systems have in common is that they both deny the atonement of Jesus Christ. Through his atonement, Jesus Christ satisfied both justice and mercy. Any policy or mindset that denies either agency or accountability to any degree denies the atonement of Christ. What we can understand from such systems is that unless they can reconcile both justice and mercy, they're to that degree lacking faith in the atonement of Christ, and consequently cannot be a godly form of government since they interfere with the reconciliation needed by the children of God. Of course, limiting agency also limits accountability, and limiting accountability always results in a loss of agency. It turns out liberal forms of government, notably socialism and communism, have always produced a police state every time it has been implemented. On paper, they might look different, but National Socialism and global communism really aren't far apart at all in reality. Their fruits are the same. So what we find is that in reality, Lucifer does use both of his promised systems in his war against agency. He uses both coercion and abandonment of responsibility. They're like two prongs of the same devilish pitchfork. They are, of course, mutually inconsistent, which proves, as it turns out, Satan is divided against himself, and his house will not stand.